The stock price of NIO has been under some pressure during September. Perhaps some of the sentiment towards stocks based in China because of the Evergrande fallout. But actually, is this a buying opportunity for the months ahead for this Chinese EV company? I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at NIO. We had earnings in August. They've started pushing out cars into other parts of the world this week. So I thought let's do an update, take a look at the stock price and some of the recent news in a bit more detail. So as usual in this video, I'll talk through some of that, what the earnings were like, what the market thought of it, the levels to watch, then we'll come back onto the charts and take a look at the technicals. It has been something of a volatile year. The stock traded as high as about $67 in January of this year. It had halved by September. We've slipped below $35 in September. So what next? We'll talk a bit now, then we'll come back and look at the charts in a bit more detail. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought we'd do an update for the electric car business NIO, looking ahead to the next few weeks, next couple of months, see where the opportunities might be and talk about some of the recent news. So as usual, in this video, I'll go through some of the details and we'll look at the big levels to watch for NIO. Then we'll jump back onto the charts, onto the platform and see what the technicals say. Clearly, it's been a volatile year. Trading has been a bit quieter more recently, but perhaps there are still opportunities. So we'll get into it and take a look at things in a lot more detail. As usual, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could, click on subscribe. It does help support the channel and it means we can continue to cover lots of different stocks throughout the week. Okay, let's take a look at the stock price and the recent news of NIO. So if you're not familiar with what the business does, it's a Chinese multinational electric vehicle company that was founded back in 2014. Unlike other electric car companies, Tesla, for example, where they have built an infrastructure of charging stations, NIO does things slightly differently, and it's built a network of battery swapping stations across China. So if you're driving along and your charge is getting low, you drive into one of these stations, the battery is automatically taken out and replaced by a fully charged battery. So it's a very different way of doing it to a lot of their competitors. We had second quarter earnings from the company in August. These are slightly better than expected. It did show a loss for the quarter, but it was a narrower loss than was being forecast. And revenue, top line, the sales were up by about 127% compared to where they were in the previous year. So overall, slightly better than expected earnings from NIO last time round. For the current quarter, the guidance it gives, it expects to deliver something like 23,000 electric vehicles in the current quarter. And what is going to be interesting, I think, for NIO, because they have, so far at least, been focusing mainly on their home market in China, they are starting to push their vehicles out to the rest of the world. For example, this week it started selling its ES8 electric vehicle in Norway. And I think this is where things could get interesting for these companies. Just how much of a dent can they make in the likes of Tesla's sales and, of course, other companies now. Plenty of companies have moved into the EV space, the likes of Volkswagen, for example. So when companies like NIO start to move out of their home market, how's that going to affect their sales and how much of the market share are they going to grab? So I think it's an interesting one to watch over the next few months. It's not been a good year for the share price, though. It's been pretty volatile, but where we stand at the moment, at the time of recording, the stock price is down by about 25% for the year to date. Let's look at the levels to watch, then we'll jump onto the chart and take a look at the technicals. So in terms of hurdles on the upside, I think there's quite a bit of resistance in the sort of $41.50 to $46.40 area, recent highs from the last 2 months or so. On the downside, a low in September. We'll see if it ends up being an important low, but that was down at $34.20 towards the end of September. So it was still fairly weak towards the end of the month, perhaps being affected by some of the fallout for Chinese-based stocks because of Evergrande, the Chinese property company that has got into some trouble. But as usual, let's put some color on these numbers. Let's take a look at the charts and the technicals in a lot more detail. So it was a great 2020 for NIO. If we look after the lows in March, around about $2.50 a share, to have traded up by the early 2021, mid-January 2021, trading up above $65. Absolutely fantastic run, but clearly we've seen sentiment shift since those highs, although it is arguably building a base or has built a base in the 30 area. As usual, let's put a moving average on. So I've put a 20-day moving average on here. So 20 days is 4 weeks worth of trading. And of course, moving averages are great when markets are trending. So we have, for example, a buy signal like back here at the end of May when the price moved above the moving average. Then a sell signal here in early July with the price falling below the moving average. Perhaps a bit of a mixed bag of signals over the last couple of months. But at the moment, at the time of recording, the price is below that moving average, just below it though. The moving average coming in, let's say around $36.50. So if we saw the stock rally less than $1 from where we are now, we would see the stock move above that 20-day moving average and suggest that perhaps a new trend higher is forming. So I think it's an interesting one to watch from that point of view. If we take a look at the RSI down here, overbought, oversold indicator, again, I think it's interesting what happened during September. We saw the RSI go oversold as the stock dropped down near $34. If we look at some of the more recent signals, they've done, I suppose, an okay job of calling the short-term turning points for NIO, although they haven't lasted very long and we have seen the stock push lower. Whether it's different this time round remains to be seen. I mean, probably the last strongest signal we had for the RSI was back in mid-May on that move below $31, and we did see a significant recovery from there. Whether that ends up being the case this time around, we'll have to wait and see. But let's take a look at the price action, because I think this is interesting. I think from an investor's point of view, taking a look at the next couple of months or so. Let's take a look at that trend first of all, off those July highs, right at the beginning of July, from just below $55 for the stock. This trend line has done a pretty good job of capping any recoveries on the way down. But as with that moving average, we're not a million miles away from breaking out of that trend. I think if we saw it run up above 37.50, for example, it looks like that downtrend is over. So I think that is an interesting one. If you couple that with the major lows we've seen over the last 6 months, you can see what a floor for the stock, the sort of $30 to about $33 zone has been. And it did dip back near those levels in September. So I think looking at the technicals here, if we were to see the moving average give a buy signal, a bit more strength from here, if we saw the correction end here, a bit more strength through that line, we do have an obvious level where perhaps we have seen a base build. So it has been a disappointing few months for the stock price of NIO. But I wonder, I think from a technical point of view, looking at everything in conjunction, the moving average, the RSI oversold, this pretty major support, and the fact we could be breaking out of this correction, perhaps we'll see some better times ahead over the weeks to come for NIO. I think the only thing that would change this, I think if we slip below that September low comes in around $34.20. If we saw weakness through there, perhaps the risk is we go for a run back at the very least to have a look at those lows from March and May. So a really interesting one to watch, and looking to see if this whole 30 to sort of 34 zone can prop the price up from here. That's it for this update in NIO. We'll see how these next few months are. I think it is interesting pushing out their more vehicles into overseas markets like Norway. We'll come back, we'll do an update. But for now, from me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your investing. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.